be not on the lone prairie, where the coyotes howl
and the wind blows free.
In a narrow grave, just 6 by 3. Oh, bury me not
On the lone prairie.
It was the TV classic that turned the domestic sitcom upside down.
When you are walking the street at night,
A ghoulish family who gathered for dinner,
More fillet of dragon, Grandpa?
Down the hatch.
got all duded up for a night out on the town.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
And had the neatest family pet. They visited the neighbors for costume parties, went out west for family vacations.
Must be some other guests.
Well, howdy, partners. Well, I'll be hanged.
Tried out for the local baseball team. And even rode go-karts. No one could have dreamed the fanfare that was to follow.
shriek and howl about why the Munsters are out on the town. One night I dare peek through their window screen. My hair turned white at such a crazy scene.
After Universal Pictures sold their collection of classic horror films to television in the 1950s, those creatures of the night had become so popular, Life magazine declared 1964 TV's Year of the Monsters. The stable of retired Depression-era icons were appearing on every TV channel and idolized on everything from model kits to game boards to bubble bath. Cashing in on the cultural craze, Universal seized the opportunity and teamed up with the CBS network to resurrect their legendary creatures. A primetime sitcom dealing with a family of funny monsters in the character's likeness to compete with successful new shows such as The Addams Family and Bewitched. It was called The Munsters. Released in September of 19... In the 55 years since the Munsters premiered, its popularity has become iconic. Forever known as Eddie, my friend Butch Patrick now delivers his Munster Series replica vehicles to horror conventions and collector car events across the country. We're at the annual Dead Man's Curve Hot Rod Show in Mahwah, New Jersey, where Butch has invited us to film the cars and later have a chat with him.
Hey Dad, I got a new record today. Is it okay if I play it on the phonograph?
Why, of course, Eddie. I think it's very nice for a young boy to be interested in music.
You know, Eddie, back in the old country, you couldn't keep me away from good music. Why, I used to haunt the opera house night and day.
Turn around, Eddie, so that we can all hear it.
record and turned the lights down. Do the creep, do the Munster creep. Try a new dance that just blew into town. Do the creep, do the Munster creep. Put out your arms like a Frankenstein. Stomp around the room and have a crazy time. And do the creep, do the creep, do the Munster creep. And do the creep, do the creep, do the Munster creep. All you gotta do is just stomp your feet and put out your arms like you're walking in your sleep. Do the creep, do the Munster creep.
Created by legendary car customizer George Barris, the Munster Coach was made from 3 Model T Fords formed into a ghoulish-looking funeral-type vehicle. Complete with spiderweb-covered headlights and a bulb pump horn, the extended 6-door hot rod was the single means of transportation for the Munsters in Season 1. For Herman as a birthday present, the Coach became such a hit with viewers it sparked a wave of model kits and toys. Munster Mania was all the rage. Capitalizing on the show's monstrous success, the Munsters was one of the first TV shows to be mass merchandised, with an over-the-top campaign selling everything from dolls to puppets, lunchboxes, and even Cheerios.
This is my father. He hangs pictures, helps Grandpa experiment, helps Mommy with the cleaning. Where does he get his go? From me. I lend him my Cheerios. Daddy says they're the greatest thing since bat wings. Mommy says they give him protein and stuff. Give your father some go. And he might play catch with you.
Big G, little O. Go with Cheerios.
By the end of the first season, cast members were in such high demand, Fred Gwynn and Al Lewis were riding high in the Munster Coach, escorting none other than Santa himself at the 1964 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
It's the town car of the Munster family, and those TV favorites have come up with a gasser. It's a car not even Detroit could conceive, so the Munsters had it custom built to the tune of $20,000, but it gets only 3 miles to the Goulin, according to Fred Gwynn and Al Lewis, who lurk behind all that makeup. They must be fine, clean-cut boys, though, to escort Santa Claus to town. Incidentally, they wish you a monstrously Merry Christmas.
Just a minute now.
A horrific, one-of-a-kind dragster powered by a high-performance Mustang engine, it supported a marble gravestone in the front and 10-inch racing slicks on the rear. And the real-life Dragula was an actual coffin slipped out the back door of a funeral home by George Barris and his associates. These days, Butch devotes himself to events such as this, welcoming a never-ending drove of fans from the beloved show. Posing for pictures and talking about the cars, people get to see firsthand what these iconic vehicles really looked like in person. After 2 seasons and 70 episodes, a Technicolor feature film was quickly put into production before the reign of the Munsters ended. Munster Go Home featured some of the best scenes and only on-screen color shots of the Munster Coach and Dragula ever filmed. Though these monstrous vehicles are sensations of television's past, George Barris' most famous masterpiece was the original 1966 Batmobile. Heading inside the event to visit with Butch and see some of the other amazing cars on display, who did we run into but Batman himself and his car? And here at the show, we found none other than Batman and Batgirl herself, along with a replica Batmobile that looks absolutely wonderful. Hi, Batman. How you doing?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm fine. How are you?
Boy, it's nice to see you here. We were just talking about Batman and the George Barris cars, and imagine running into you today. You and this beautiful Batgirl over here, and the car looks fabulous.
It's amazing. We would never miss this event.
Well, good.
We make a special trip every year.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we finally made it over to Butch's table. Hi, Butch. How you doing?
Hey, Kerry.
So
pleasure.
nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, buddy. Welcome. Yeah, thank you for coming out here. This is Dead Man's Curve is my car club, and this is the 7th annual Wild Hot Rod Weekend at the Mahwah Sheridan. But it's actually our 40th anniversary of the club, so it's a really special event.
So this is your car club?
Yeah, they hired me years ago as a celebrity, and I became friends with the crew. And when I acquired my Munster Coach in Dragula a couple years ago, I became a full-fledged member. Member number 13. How appropriate.
Member number 13. That is 1313.
That's it.
So you have two of the most jaw-dropping hot rods in history. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, when I was a young kid, I was lucky enough to land a role of Eddie Munster on the classic TV show The Munsters. And in addition to being a very cool show, we wound up having the first George Barris Customs actually used in a sitcom situation as a family vehicle. The Munster Coach was given to Herman as a birthday present one episode. And then a little bit later, we had another episode where I conned him into going to the drag strip to race my friend's father, where he lost the car. And during the episode, Grandpa then built. I used to go to George Barris' shop all the time. I was a little kid. I built the models. I was riding around in the coolest car in Hollywood. And here, lo and behold, 50 some odd years later, I have my own adult version of the cars that I tour the country with.
Wow. And you tour the country. You're all over the place. When I talked to you before, you were in Missouri, going to Florida. Then from Florida, you're coming up here. And then you say tomorrow you're leaving to go to Vermont.
Yeah, I do about 50,000 miles a year, towing a 32-foot trailer full of cars. I enjoy it. I love road travel. I enjoy people everywhere. The Munsters is a very popular show, multi-generational, family-friendly, so it's a good fit for me.
Tell us about the cars. How did you come up with such identical replicas of the cars?
Well, a few years ago, I was actually hired by a haunt in Virginia. I think it was called Darkwood Manor, and they hired a guy to pick me up at the hotel, and he showed up in this Munster Coach dressed as Grandpa Munster. He was a true, Munster fan, and we became friends over the years, and we would help each other book events together. So when he retired, he wanted to sell his cars 3 years ago. I wound up buying them.
Wow. And so now you have two Dragulas. So what's the story on the Dragula outside and what's the story on the Dragula inside?
That one's not mine.
Okay.
That one I found for the buyer of that one. A friend of mine had it, and I brokered that deal. But that's the original style that Grandpa used in the TV show. Mine is a recreation of the Munster Go Home movie that Herman drove.
Right.
Without the dome and with the roll bar.
We noticed it had the bubble on it. So
yes.
the bubble is the kind that they used in the series, and the one with the roll bar was the one from the movie.
Exactly.
Okay. So you travel across the country and you take these cars everywhere. I mean, so thousands and thousands of fans that have known you for, generations are getting to meet you and getting to see these cars, and also you just go everywhere.
Yeah, over the last 30 years when conventions first started up, I did a lot of personal appearances, and I've always been a gearhead, and so when the cars became available, I thought to myself, I said, if I buy these cars, this would give me a leg up on a lot of other people, and we started doing event status things towards, my company's now called Munsters Events, and we do everything from drag strips to NHRA to NASCAR, Indy Racing League, and a lot of racetracks. So that gave me something that nobody else was doing. And then I do a lot of car dealerships. And I used to, my dad used to own a car dealership, and I know the value of promotion. So we've turned this whole thing into a traveling roadshow, so to speak, that we do a lot of promotions for automotive events.
I read an article about a bicycle. George Barris built you a bicycle. Why don't you tell us a little about the bicycle?
Yeah, George Barris and Von Dutch actually built a Stingray bike for me to ride around this Universal studio. It never made it onto film. They never wrote an episode that included it, but the bicycle, I did acquire it a few years back, and the combination of acquiring the cars and the bicycle allowed me to start doing a lot more car-related events, like this particular event here. And now here we are, the 40th anniversary of the show, the Dead Man's Curtain Club. This is the 7th anniversary of the show here at the Mahwah Sheridan, the Wild Hot Rod Weekend, and they put on a great show.
Oh, they do. It's wonderful. And, boy, I tell you, I used to travel and show antique cars across the country in AACA and early V8, so, boy, that's a lot of work.
It is. It's, when we started driving throughout the country, as you can see, the table that we bring along now allows us to have a lot more stuff on the table because we have a trailer and a truck. And I have a lot more of appreciation for the roadies of the rock tours because loading in and loading out is no fun.
Well, maybe we can go out with you when you start cranking up the cars and loading them up. And
let's show them how glamorous it really is to do a load in and a load out.
Show them how much work that is.
Deal.
Thank you, Butch.
You bet.
It's a shame we have to leave on such a miserable night.
I'll take care of that. A little instant rainstorm.
Good.
From Mahwah, New Jersey, this has been an episode of Wheels of the Past. Thanks for watching.
Well, you can't win them all.
Hey, wait for me! Hurry up, Marilyn!